Hello again, everybody. This next video will be an audio version of an interview with Mitch Kriebel. He is the founder of Ruck for the Fallen. Pretty heavy stuff, so I hope you have some tissues ready. But I did also include some pretty cool background noise. Enjoy. I see it says you're joining. Wait. You there, pal?
Yeah, I got you, buddy.
Oh, there you are. What's going on, pal? How are you?
Oh, I'm hanging in there. What about yourself?
Not too much, man. Just, it was a busy day, so I didn't even take a shower. I just threw on a dirty-ass shirt, and I was like, let's get this thing going. Now, I did do some homework on you,
Okay.
but I didn't really get too far, so I'm not fully aware of what's going on with you as far as what you're up to and what you're doing. Where do you want to start with that?
Yeah, I might as well start at the beginning, I guess. So I've been in the Army 15 years.
Okay.
And I'm just a long-lost infantryman,
Sure.
And anyway, in 2016, everything kind of went upside down for me. I had broken my spine in Afghanistan and wasn't aware of it for a few more years until I went in and saw a specialist and had to get surgery. Anyway, during that time period, the military was trying to give me the boot, trying to give me some free money to get out. I had lost 3 friends kind of in a row to suicide, and 2 of them were twin brothers.
Oh, wow.
And then I had lost a friend of mine overseas. So everything just kind of was piling up on me, especially with the Army saying, let's get you paid, let's get you out of here.
Right.
And I wasn't really wanting to accept that very much. So I went into a deep, dark place, had some definite relationship issues and everything else. And I finally just decided, this is the part where, they talk about you go into that isolation and you're just going to quit on yourself. And, I'd come up with a scheme of how I was going to end my life and everything else. But by the powers that be and my family, I was saved. So I got my surgery. I was able to prove the Army wrong, passed all my physicals and everything else. And while I was going through my recovery, the Baton Death March was going on, and or was about to.
Right.
Do you know anything about the Baton?
Yeah, it's like a 24-mile ruck march annually that you actually get like a pin or some type of, like, it's officially recognized for the Army. So I am
right.
It started in Korea, I believe. Originated in Korea, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, well, the 26.2 for the Baton was from the Philippines, but yeah, it's been around a long time, and they do it down in New Mexico. And a friend of mine said, you should give that a try. And I said, man, I'm just learning how to walk again. And he's like, boy, that sounds like a pretty pathetic excuse. So I think I had 63 days to get my body in, shape enough to make it. And when I went down there, I think there was there's over 3,000 people at the starting line, and that would be amputees, that would be people that were part of the POW program, all these different people from every walks of life, firefighters, police officers, and then of course the thousands in the crowd. And I'll tell you what, by the end of that thing, not only was I sore, but I was bawling my head off just, hearing people's stories, whether it be about PTSD, suicide, the military in general, families, Gold Star moms. And I was overwhelmed by the fact that, not long before that, I was contemplating suicide. And my mother was down there with me to support me. And I just said, I got to do something like this. So right after that, in my home state here, I was stationed in Wisconsin at the time, but in my home state, we had a Kittitas police officer that was in a shootout with a suspect. Him and his partner were both hit, and one of them died. Okay. And I decided I would carry a flag for him. I'd do a ruck. So I did a 31-mile ruck up in Wisconsin. It almost killed me. But I took that flag, and I took it down to the police station, and it was a thin blue line flag.
Right.
And I had the police station sign it. And somehow, in the chats, we said, well, why don't we just drive this flag to the next police station and the next police station and the next police station. And finally, I just handed the flag off, and the police officers just handed it off all the way from Wisconsin, all the way back to Kittitas, Washington State. And I had raised enough money to give the widow of that police officer a big old check,
Right.
you know. And so when we got there, you know, it had somehow made the news pretty big, and there was all these different news crews there and everything else. And the widow said, I appreciate the money, but all I really want is the flag. And it had several hundred signatures on it from first responders. And that's how the flag program started for Ruck for the Fallen. But what I did is I just threw a flag on my back, and I'd go to events all over the country, and I just ruck and tell people about it. Well, it went from, you know, 50 members to 1,000 members, and now we're at 13,000 members.
Mm-hmm.
And not only do we have the flag program, but we put together events. What we do is we bring in suicide prevention teams. We have folks that'll help first responders. We have, you know, the military and first responder wives groups. But our biggest thing is bringing veterans together and first responders together so they can communicate, and we don't get into that isolation portion of suicide, or
Right.
just showing support, period, seems to be such an uplifting thing. And that's how Ruck for the Fallen was really born.
Okay, so when did this start? I know you said you had the spine issue in Afghanistan, but when that ruck that you did for that police officer, when was that date-wise?
So the ruck we did for the police officer was because I was in recovery in 2017. So I did the baton in 2017, and I did the big ruck in 2018, and that's how that all kicked off. So I would say that the Ruck for the Fallen was really born, you know, in 2018.
Right. So what's the goal? What's your sole mission with that organization, Ruck for the Fallen?
Well, you know, it's funny when you talk about our mission statement, you look at it online,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because it's very broad. Because when it comes to, I wish I could say, oh, until every suicide is stopped. Well, that's not something that can happen. Or we can support every Blue Angel, Red Angel, Gold Star mom. Well, that's not a goal either. My goal and our goal is to save just one. And if we can just save one, and obviously we've saved quite a few. We have a mentor program on our pages where you can call in and you can talk to folks that are certified in suicide prevention. But, you know, our goal is to just save one. And obviously that just means the next one.
Right.
And I just never wanted anybody to feel the way I felt. And we also educate the tar out of people when it comes to what you're looking for as your soldier, first responder, you know, starts to self-isolate. Because self-isolate is the #1 killer of all our heroes. And we educate people. We tell them that 70,000 veterans have killed themselves in the last 10 years. You know, that doesn't seem like a big number until you realize that only 1% of the population serve.
Right.
You know, and then we talk about the numbers of first responders that commit suicide. We had 2 yesterday.
Right.
It's catastrophic. And our goal is to get the word out.
Yeah, well, I had one a couple of towns over that was on the news earlier this morning. So it's a very, very serious topic, and one I take serious as well. When you said that you were down in the dumps, you know, so to speak, who helped you, and how did they recognize that, and like, how did they pull you out of that?
Well, they caught me in the act. So I was the very, very, very small percentage that got caught in the act of it. And I had to go get help. And, you know, the military was kind enough to help support that, because usually they'd give you the boot,
Right.
you know, but I was one of the few that was caught in the act. And I learned a lot from my spouse, and I learned a lot from my family, where I had to say, okay, what did you see from outsider's point of view? And they said, well, we saw you were having trouble, but we didn't know how to intervene, so we just left you alone. You know, we didn't want to cause you panic. We just gave you your space. And what we've learned over time is obviously that is what you don't do. You stay in connection, but you listen. And another big thing that saved me, I think more than anything, and this is what I advocate for, is my wife got in contact with a lot of my old military buddies and basically forced them to come and see me. And it was the most important, you know, portion of my recovery.
Now, when you say
because although I felt ashamed, it was listening to their story saying, hey man, I've been there. I felt that push pull in my stomach.
Now, when you say you were caught in the act, can you provide details, or is that something you keep to yourself?
Well, I'll just say that, you know, I was about 30 to 45 seconds away from taking my own life. You know what I mean? And I got walked in on. I was actually downstairs in my house. So she was looking for me, found me. I bawled my head off, kind of spilled my guts. Like, this is my plan. This is what I was going to do. I had envisioned it every day for God, I don't know how long, years maybe. I just, you know, I'd think through what was I going to do, or could I go through with it? How would other people see it? I felt jealous that my buddies had made the pain go away, had escaped it. But at the same time, you have that thought of, God, am I going to be considered a coward? Or, you know, people always say suicide is selfish and this and that. And so, you know, I fought those demons every single day, but I had a plan of how I was going to do it. And I didn't want to be a burden to my family anymore, which obviously, now that I'm better educated, that'd be even worse. So, you know, I'm just lucky I don't have those feelings anymore. And I was able to get help. So
now, I spoke to somebody who suffered from PTSD pretty bad. He was a firefighter. He was part of the first responder for the Oklahoma City bombing. And he had gone through a similar pattern. He didn't get close to hurting himself, but he had thought of that. And he had reached a moment where he said to himself, I just don't want to do this anymore. But then he sought help. He went to go to the resources. And then I asked him if he felt he was cured of the PTSD, to which he responded he was. Do you feel the same way now about yourself?
I don't. And, you know, to each their own, and everybody I think is a little bit different. I don't think I'll ever be cured. And the reason why is I think, at least in my case, my biggest thing is I always feel guilty. And I'm not talking about guilty when it comes to my own suicide attempt. I feel guilty that I'm one of those people, I feel like I could have done more, you know, because I lost a few roommates in Afghanistan, kind of 1 week here and then the 2 weeks later kind of thing. And I always felt like I could have done more. And that's what ate at me. And even with Ruck for the Fallen, it doesn't matter how many people I help. I always feel like I need to do more. And that is definitely my, that's my symptom. And I run into a lot of people, especially first responders. You know, I'd say first responders even more than veterans because of the amount of car accidents on the road, or you showed up just 2 minutes late, and they always think they blame themselves. If I would have zigged when I would have zagged. And that's what seems to eat up our first responders. And you talk about the Oklahoma City, you know, bombing and stuff like that. What could I have done? You know what I mean? Even when I showed up on scene, could I have saved that one life? And, you know, I don't think I'll ever be cured. I think I can just adapt to it.
Now, I'm not a therapist, so I don't want to mislead you with any advice, but has anyone told you that maybe you should accept and let go so that you can kind of relieve yourself, or do you think that's always going to be a part of your experiences?
Well, you know, and I've definitely done my fair share of therapy, and I've had great success with it. Again, everybody handles it differently, but when people say, you know, accept, I think some people can do that. You know what I mean? I've talked to people who said, you know what, I accept the inevitable. I accept the fact that God had a plan, or, you know, whatever they say. And I applaud that. And I wish everybody could, you know, but me, I I see this, and this is what I hear from so many, because I talk to them weekly, and I'm no therapist. I'll just be an ear. And the constant thing I hear is, you know, people can't go to sleep at night because they think of it either every bad thing they've done or everything they could have done. So they'll self-medicate. And then when they wake up in the morning, that's what they've been dreaming about all night long or having nightmares. So they'll self-medicate again, you know, which then creates the cycle of depression, the cycle of addiction and everything else. And for me, I'd rather know my demons. I'd rather know what my issue is than try to gray it out. You know what I mean? We're trying to get people to quit doing that gray.
Right. Now,
thing. If you need to talk about it, you need to get on the table, which I, as an infantry guy, after all these deployments and everything else, my biggest mistake was just not talking. That was my thing. And I do it now. If you want to know everything about me.
okay. Right. The part where you just said you've had a lot of deployments. You did break out like the last 10 to 15 seconds. Can you go back and double back and repeat what you said?
Well, I just, you know, as an infantry guy with the amount of deployments that I've had, what I said is, you know, what has helped me so much is, you know, heroes, and I say this all the time, heroes don't tell you their problems. They might tell their spouses, they might tell their family, but the majority of heroes would rather have people, you know, rip on them, and they don't seek to defend themselves. Heroes never defend themselves. They let or as we say, their deeds be more important than their words. And, you know, my thing is I needed to tell somebody, I just didn't. And what we do is we suck that out of people, say, hey man, it's okay. You know, and when you tell your story, I guess it would be kind of like going to rehab. You know, you tell your story, someone else is willing to tell more of their story. So the more I can talk about my suicide or what I have had to cope with, and I'm not the worst by any means, it gives the willingness for others to come forward. And I enjoy more than anything to get private messages just saying, your message makes me want to speak up, you know, especially about post-traumatic stress. You know, they'll go tell a VA rep, but they'll never tell their family what their diagnosis is. You know what I mean? Because they don't want to feel weak. They don't want their battle buddies to say, hey man, so-and-so's got PTSD and he's crazy and he's this and he's that, you know, but none of us think that. And I think we misconstrue it all the time. No one's going to look down on you, you know, but heroes just do not stick up for themselves. It's just a fact.
Right. Now, as far as your organization, how is that structured? Do you ruck certain days? Do you wait on things, or do you have a system already in place?
So the cool thing about Ruck for the Fallen is before COVID, which obviously became quite an issue, is we would just hit events all over the country. You know, it didn't matter where you were from. We have people that ruck all over the country, and their job is just to get the word out. So that way, you know, we can bring them into the mold and we can say, hey, what help can we get for you? And we end up helping a hell of a lot more families than we help our heroes. And of course, it kind of makes sense because the families are looking for a way to understand. So what we do is, before COVID, is any event we could get to, we'd go. Right. And then we would just make sure we're talking to everybody. And then second, we hit the big events every year. We hit the Baton. You know, there's a lot of them that go to the Marine Corps Marathon, and they just ruck that. And, you know, I mean, there's not a whole lot of rucks in the country. There's Go Ruck, and there's Tough Ruck, and there's all that stuff. But we like the ones where we can be around a lot of veterans, first responders, and so we can talk to them. But we have our own ruck here every year, and we started that last year. We're really hoping to do it this year, and it had a lot of success. And we had members coming from all over, and it's in Oakdale, Washington, which is just right down from my house. But we get asked to come all over the place, and some people are asking us just so we can show patriotic, you know, pride. Some people want us to talk to their family members. And since we are a nonprofit, we can't use that money for anything but events and, or towards our members. So if we need to fly over and we need to do an event somewhere, we'll use those funds for that. But most of our funds go towards, our clothing line that also rebuilds funds back to us, or helping people any way we possibly can. If we have someone struggling, which that's the tough part, right? Because once you find out, some folks find out that, hey, these people will help you. If you're struggling, well, we have to take every case different. But our big one is shipping the flags all over the country and then having representatives there to make sure they present them to the families. And it's really neat. It's a tearjerker, man. It'll beat you up.
Yeah, no, it sounds pretty heavy, like heavy stuff. What is the plan going forward? Do you see yourself expanding or going in other directions?
If you asked me an end goal, an absolute end goal, and you're starting to see these pop up around the country, not many. They have something called the ranch, and the ranch brings in its military members to where they can all be together. They have equine therapy, they have therapists on the ground and everything else. It is nonprofit, and I think that's really cool because it just started. But I would want something like that where we could set up a lodging area in an isolated location, and we can have families and our heroes come up there and just be together. And the number one cure, and it'll always be this way, I don't care, and this is just my opinion, but I don't care what the professionals say, the number one cure for heroes is getting other heroes near them. And we've seen it multiple times now where we've put money in place to bring folks together, and that's all they talk about. And they just want to do it again, and they want to do it again, and they want to do it again. And that would be my goal. I would like to set up, an area, almost like a retreat that we control, and that we can have professionals there, and we can do classes, and we, have the opportunity to bring all these heroes together. And I think it would be amazing.
You consider it kind of like a rehab center, but a little bit more intense?
Well, I would never say that. You know what I mean? I don't think you would either. Just because you throw a word like that in there, that would deter people. But would it have a lot of benefits of understanding? Because you're not forced to be there, but we would require part of the reason you're there is to learn. And I think it would really help. I really do, because I don't know everything. I sit through as many seminars as I can just trying to understand even about myself. But what I do is I learn from the general public, and I learn from my own experiences, because I hear the same thing from wives over and over and over again. I just don't understand what I need to do. He's doing this, she's doing this, blah, 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 blah. And we try to write it down, and, we try to better understand them. And we've had some very close calls where people call up and say, hey, I heard this message from you guys and I was going to kill myself. And we had one that just planned on doing it on the phone. You know what I mean? Luckily, there was a malfunction to his weapon, and he's still with us today. We were able to coach him down. You know what I mean? I've got such great individuals that work for us, and they work for free. And like I said, even one, we can save one. This whole thing would be worth it to me.
Right. Do you consider this entire organization that you built as therapeutic for you, or is it more about helping people?
I would say both. I really would. I don't know where I'd be without it. You know what I mean? I got some buddies that work for like Black Rifle Coffee, and I think they're awesome, right? They give 10% of all proceeds out. I think it's awesome. But I've never been one of those people that would want to make a profit off of any of this. So as much as I love them, I prefer they give more. But for me, it is that hug. It is that moment where they have a touch of freedom. And then most importantly, what I love about our events more than any is the freedom they feel. Sometimes you'll hear wives or mothers or fathers or whatever say, that's the first time I've seen him and her smile in 3 years. You know what I mean? They just love it. And it's therapeutic to me because they think I'm something important. And I tell them every single time, I'm just a set of boots an old broken down infantry guy who carries a flag. All the members make this happen. You know what I mean? On numerous occasions, the vice president's house burned down. And it was not me that had anything to do with raising money for that vice president. It was the members, and they took it upon themselves to do it. You know, we've had people that have had, you know, something happen to their vehicle. We've had people that are just in a bad way, and we needed to find them. You know, there's enough members out there to where we can do that. And what makes it all worth it to me is knowing that that person at that moment, at that very time, is happy.
Right.
And it all comes full circle to me.
How many miles have you logged in since you repaired your spine with the surgery?
So this year's been pretty slow, but I did around 1,300 miles in 2019.
Wow.
Somewhere around, I don't know, close to 800 miles in 2018. And this year I've only logged 300 and some odd miles. So, you know, but it's not about the miles. It's it's about the people.
I'm going to do everything I can to get as much exposure for you, help fundraise. Where should somebody go if they wanted to contribute to your organization?
So we do have a PayPal account that is on our Facebook page. It's also on our, on our homepage. But the Facebook page seems to be the popular one, of course. Social media runs the world. And we do have a PayPal on there. We also have a clothing line on there. And, there's an address as well if people didn't want to use the PayPal account. There's multiple avenues on there. So.
Okay. It sounds excellent. Very, very heavy stuff. Is there any final words that you want to put out there that you want me to include?
You know, what I tell people lately, because the cool thing about Ruck for the Fallen is we don't do politics. I don't care who you're rooting for. I really don't. Mm-hmm. Some people like to say that we root for one team or the other. I don't really care because we have protesters get after us once in a while, and I just kind of giggle like, you don't know what we stand for. But it's okay. I'd say the big thing lately that I've been using is don't be afraid to root for heroes. And that's really seemed to stem across because we have our deeds, not words, and that comes from the 10th Mountain Division. But don't be afraid to root for our heroes. And that patriotic comeback that we've seen lately has helped a lot of folks out, including the older generation. An old man stopped me on the road. I was just walking by myself. He came out and gave me a hug. I didn't know whether he was going to shoot me or whatever because you never know these days, but he came out and gave me a hug. And he's like, I haven't seen this in 40 years. So it's not a bad thing to root for our heroes, and I think a lot of people are starting to do that.
Have you been to the East Coast at all?
So I have enough offers. I swear, Philadelphia, New York City itself, Fort Drum, New York, Baltimore. We have a lot of people over there. If you look at our members, you wouldn't believe how many members we have on the East Coast. And a lot of people are asking. It's just right now, it's not in the cards, obviously, just due to COVID. But yeah, we have a lot of support out there. And, contrary to popular belief of what they say about the East Coast in some areas, it's very patriotic over there. And I absolutely love it. And I really hope to get out there. I do.
Well, if you ever make it to New York City, reach out to me because I'll definitely partake in that. And even Philadelphia, because that's not much farther either. I'm kind of in between the two, but closer to the city.
Sure. Well, before I die, I'm walking to where the towers were at because that's why I got in, like a lot of guys my age. You know what I mean? And right. I'm definitely rucking down there. That's for sure.
Awesome, man. I'm going to start working on this now, put it all together. I'm going to send you a personal phone number just so you have it. And then just so you keep need anything. Any final words?
What's that?
Any final words before we terminate this?
I'm going to say thank you to you. We researched the heck out of you guys. We really did, because we have a lot of people call in, and immediately my my stepfather, who's a 24-year vet with the Air Force, he also works in law enforcement. He says, you got to get back to this guy. And I appreciate what you guys are doing, your truthfulness.
Mhm.
And I can't thank you enough. And any way we can help on our page, doesn't look like you need a ton of help, but we'll definitely help any way we can. We'll make it happen.
Well, I'm trying to, because I do mostly law enforcement. That's why when I saw your first responders, that caught my eye. But I'm trying to get more military, because that's just as important. Because I'm a veteran myself. I only did one tour.
Awesome.
It was really pretty easy. But it's still
You didn't pick that.
Yeah, that's what I tell everyone else too. I'm like, hey, I just did what I was told, and got back home.
Right.
But I'm trying to branch out to more military as well. So I reached out to a few organizations, several of them on Facebook groups, and my idea was to get a military platform, because I have between Law Enforcement Today and Blue Magazine. I'd like to also reach out to military so that I can write about that. Because some stories are more appropriate for military audience, but this one's perfect because it's both. So I can definitely push it through Law Enforcement Today, Blue Magazine, and a couple of military groups that have already agreed to publish something if it's for like the good of veterans, not just entertainment.
Sure. No, that's amazing, because the cool thing about bringing them all together, they're all heroes. I don't care. We got them all over the place, and they're able to communicate well, and it's one hell of a big family. I think you're going to have a great response any way you go in that direction.
Yeah, I think so too. Like I said, I'm going to start working on this now. If you think of anything, or if I have follow-up questions, I'll reach out to you.
Yeah, bud. As soon as you send me that number, I'll send you a text.
All right, great. We'll talk to you again, Mitch, and we'll be in touch.
I appreciate you so much. I hope you know that.
Anytime, brother, I'm here for you. Like I said, reach out, and I'll send you the text now.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, you got it, buddy. Talk to you then.
You bet. Bye.